Hello, Snow Nerd, and today I wanted to talk, do a code overview on this little project I created yesterday, based on some other work. So if you've seen watched my channel before, I did Dev Ed as another developer on YouTube, did a make a game in 1 hour challenge, where I attempted to make a game where you had to locate a cube, basically, or a black cube in the initial case, from a series of other boxes. So I just took that idea and started to run with it a bit more in a new project. So using some of the code from that I generated before. So what is this? This is just the game on itch.io. This is just the start screen, basically. Jagger, what is it? So yeah, it's basically a game where out of 200 possible cubes that could be generated, it generates a random number of cubes. Then it also generates a random number of white cubes based on that, divides by floor, I think, basically, and then you got a timer. But I'll just run through. I'm not sure if it's 100% working yet. There's probably a few little bugs and quirks I think I need to work out, especially around with. Anyway, let's just show you what happens. So we've got this. This is. I mean, there's obviously the UI is quite prototypal still at the minute, but just click start. Generates a bunch of boxes. So we're going to collect these white ones and knock into these other ones to move them around. A little bit of arcade style music. 22. 24, and we've got a timer up there, 100. And the aim of the game is just to collect, well, in this case, all 24 white boxes. Just a little bit of noise when you collect them, which is nice. A little bit of music. But there's a bug with the music at the minute because it doesn't play out for the entire time. That's what we're going to have to work on. We've got 12 left. So there's 99 out of a possible 200 created there. And I've just divided 99 by 4 to get 24. We've got 10 boxes left somewhere. There's one there. There we go, some more over here. Yeah, that's the thing I was on about. The music cuts out after about 60 seconds. So I need to fix that. But yeah, so what we should see if I don't get all the remaining 8, if there are 8, because I'm not sure if it's hard to test it in some places because some of the boxes, the box sizes are randomly generated as well, so the scale's randomly generated, and obviously the positioning of the boxes is randomly generated at runtime. This is going to reset because I've only got 7. I've got 7 boxes left and 4 seconds to find each one, so this is going to reset. Ding ding. So yeah, it resets again. Start. 36 boxes this time, so we've got 9 white cubes. There's one there. One there. Oh, did I get that one? I think I'm going to find them all this time actually. The win condition's not that impressive at the minute. I need to work on that. It just basically says you won. It doesn't really do much at the minute. But so I've only got 3 left. I might be able to do it this time. Possibly. Let me just find where those other white ones are. So, I don't know. It's probably like quite a fun little diverting game. It's quite fun to create it, just as an exercise, I suppose. Where they're free. This is the thing I'm worried about. I think sometimes the boxes aren't created enough because I'm basically flooring the white cubes that are created, so I'm not sure if it's sometimes not created enough, or if possibly they just bounce off the plane's quite big, but possibly they're bouncing off into the nether regions of off the map, basically. But yeah, that's something I'm not really sure of at the minute. So for example, but I mean you can't win still. Like if I get 33, it's going to be too much. If I get something like 75, it's going to be too much. If I get a smaller number, 71's too much. 44 might be doable. 11. So I think sometimes they may be rolling off the map, but I don't think that's fine tuning really. You can see there it's falling off. I can probably, I was thinking of adding walls around the entire map actually. We've got 10 left, 10 around here. 8 left. There's one there, 7. So yeah, I quite like the element of randomness in this game, it's quite cool. I mean, it's a very simple premise, but I guess because of the randomness it gives it a bit more replayability. I need to fix that music for me, there's 4 left apparently. Anyway, I'll get into the actual code in a minute I think, because I guess you get the idea. Ah, there's one there. Probably make a wind sound or something later, I think. But let's plow through here. There's supposed to be 3 left, but I can't see any anyway. Oh, gonna run out of time. Anyway, that's probably enough of a little explanation on what the game is and what the purpose of it is. So I'll spend another 10 seconds trying to find this other white box. And like I said, it's still prototypal, so there's probably mistakes. Like I'm pretty sure the white cubes are, because I'm generating them based on the cubes, randomly generated cubes created. I'm sure I'm doing something wrong at the minute. But anyway, let's look at the code basically. So okay, so we've got an index HTML file, which is just like HTML, some CSS, and the generate boxes. Which is the main JavaScript file, but the only JavaScript file actually. So I'll put this into presentation mode so it's a bit bigger so you can see it properly. Okay. So this is the HTML. So I'll talk a little bit about what this is doing. If you're familiar with A-frame, you'll be very familiar with what's going on here. So I'm using CDNs for the packages for the scripts. So A-frame is A-frame packaged. A-frame extras, I think I needed that for some reason to do the part of the physics system, because I'm using a few different add-ons. A-frame environment component actually I don't need, I was just using that initially, but I don't need it anymore. A-frame physics system is obviously used for the collision detection and just so you don't fall through the floor basically, and so there's some basic physics in place. Generate boxes is my JavaScript file, and then style sheet's just the main style sheet. We've got 2 audio elements here which just get triggered basically in JavaScript when the events that they need to, like on the my audio is music, and then pickup is just when you pick up one of the white boxes, and those get triggered via JS. And then just the sort of placeholder time elapsed cubes created with IDs so that I can append HTML to them when the time is modified, when the cubes are created, etc, etc. And then yeah, play button, blah 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 blah. You can set this to true, and then you can have a look at the sort of bounding boxes, which is quite good for it. This is a scene, which is the scene of running an A-frame basically, not iframe, A-frame. We've got some assets here, textures mostly, so brick is a texture that's used on the boxes that are created, each of an ID, which is important. Snow is the floor, the sky is the sky here, which is referenced there. Factory isn't actually used anymore, but it's just something I was messing around with before. Okay, looks like I created camera twice actually, I don't think I needed to do that. Yeah, anyway, entity ID camera, and then the actual physics component which interacts with other components is kinematic body, and also player is important because that's an ID that we use. Well, you'll see in the JavaScript when you get onto the WSAD controls, gives you WSAD controls, and look controls gives you the ability to look around, like with your mouse. A plane just defines plane with a static body with using the physics system so that you don't fall through the floor, basically is the reason that's there. And then the size, which probably I'll make a bit bigger later. This is what I was playing around with before the pre-done environment, but I sort of scrapped that because I don't think it was supporting the collisions, so I had to scrap it for now. I might try and integrate it later. Sky is just the sky with the clouds using this ID here, so it's just referencing this. So I think that's probably enough for the HTML. I'll go into the main real thing of this is the JavaScript really. That's when most of the behavior occurs, so we generate boxes. I've done this all in vanilla.js, so when I was initially doing this project I was trying to do it in React with React A-frame, but even the guy who personally created React A-frame says that it's probably better just to do it in without using that, because it was getting really complicated and it's just not it's not as simple as you just using vanilla.js. And they're saying that there are some really cool 3D packages that integrate with React now, like the React free fiber looks really good actually at the minute, to be honest. But let's just have a look at this anyway. So this is the JavaScript, which basically contains all the instructions for how the game works, basically. So I'll just go through that bit by bit, I suppose. They're not too complicated. How many lines is it? It's what, 134, so it's not massively complicated. So at the top here we've got a variable of type const, building number, and then I have a function called get random integer, which is down here, which just basically creates a random integer with a maximum value. So the maximum value is clamped to 200 there, so that does that. This is where I think I might be doing something a bit wrong, possibly anyway, I'm not exactly sure at the minute, but basically I get that number divided by 4, giving you the amount of win boxes, generating that value, and then that's let because I want to reassign it later once, reassign a different value to it once, or deprecate the value once the players collided with it. So there's those two variables at the top, and then I have a play button because of the way that Google Chrome functions, a lot of browsers function, I have to interact with the canvas before music will play. So I had to add this is quite a late addition actually, I had to add basically a play button, so you had to click that play button for it to generate and run the startup scripts, startup functionality. Before I didn't have that, but I just added it because otherwise the sound wasn't working. So I've added get element by ID, which is that play button. I think it's just basically this where it says start. Then I've added this as well for the win, but that's hidden at first. And then I just added an event listener for click. And then let's look at begin game, which is where basically our game gets initiated. So I've got a variable of type let, because it's going to change initially is 0, because it basically just adds 1 increments per when you run the state, update the game state, but I'll talk a bit about that later. And then we've got some just UI elements, just so selecting those by ID, document get element by ID for like time left, cubes created, just so I can present. And then we have this function called create cubes, and we give it the buildings number, which is the generated value above. Then we update, well I'll talk a bit about that in a minute actually, after I've gone over the overview of this. Then when we update the HTML of cubes created, so where to add the actual display, and same for cubes total. And I had to do to string because I wasn't liking it before for some reason, because it was an integer I guess. And then the same for create win boxes, which creates the white boxes basically. And then we have an update get game state function, which actually runs every second with a set interval. And then the other thing I was talking about before is we want to trigger the sound, so we get element by ID, which is on the HTML, my audio is called. Set it to play, set the volume a bit low because it was a bit too loud before, and then we hide the play button basically. But I think the first things we need to talk about is the actual creation, and actually one of the main parts of the actual code is the create cubes and the create win boxes. So let's go to those functions. So let's just look at create cubes, which basically creates the not the winnable cubes but the other cubes. And some of this code's like work in progress, so some of it will probably change, but basically create cubes accepts a parameter of amount, which is the buildings. I should probably call it the same thing actually, it makes it a bit confusing, but basically buildings number is the parameter, so that's the amount. And then yeah, so box number, I've just defined that as box number here. And then we have a for loop, so for the amount that's passed into this function, do this thing. So obviously we want to run this as many times as there are as the building numbers have been defined. So this took me a while to figure out. Let building, so we want to create an element of type box, and then we generate random integer values. This is its own function, but I don't know if it's worth getting into that too much. But then we clamp those values at maximums for the position of the x-axis, position of the z-axis, and then the scale as well. And then this is we assign them a random color as well. So there's a function for that. Get random color. So red, green, blue, brown. So that's basically assigning a variable array, and then it selects a random color from that array each time. That could probably be done differently actually. I think I could probably create that, because there's never change. I could probably make it as a constant up there, but it doesn't matter for now. Don't worry about that too much. And then building set attribute, we set the position for the individual instance of wherever it is the position of the loop. So we set it to the pos x, which is here, get the random integer. The y always stays the same, just basically so it's the same. They sort of fall at the start because I've set them a bit higher up because of the physics. And then pos z is the z-axis, and then scale, we just do object 3D scale and set it to this uniform scale, which is randomly generated with a maximum value of 15. And then also set it with set attribute material source and then the asset brick, so it sets it to the texture of brick because we've just given a sort of brick texture. Then I give it a color, material set attribute material color, which has been created here. Get the random color if you see all that. And then this bit's very important. Document query selector, so select the scene, append the child, the building, which is this variable, this object if you like, building set attribute. And then after all that's been done, I was having trouble with this before because before I was trying to set the physics before I appended it, but that doesn't work, so you have to append set attribute body type dynamic, which basically just creates gives it the dynamic physics so you can collide with it. So that's that. The create win boxes is much the same, except it's slightly different because it's white and there's no texture on it. Hence why there's different functions, because otherwise it would be pointless to create different functions because you can reuse, but basically they're different. So yeah. What else? Let's go up again. So that's the create win, that's create cubes. Update game state. Now I think this can be improved. It's quite hacky at the minute. Basically, update game state, it runs every second. That's what set interval timeout of thousands does. Runs every second. Every second increment the timer. Update the inner HTML of the timer left. Cubes left. Update with the amount of win boxes. So that just updates every second. And then if the time equals strict equality equals 100, then we restart the entire scene. There's a function for that, which is basically just to reload the window. If amount of boxes equals 0, then win. This needs a bit of modifying because at the minute actually it runs every second as well, so I'm probably going to rewrite this. But yeah. So restart, yeah, just location reload, reloads the entire thing. Decrement score. Oh yes, so I guess the other main thing is the collisions, so we have to check for collisions with the box. This is an experiment, so I can probably take this off because I don't think it's actually needed anymore, but this is just me experimenting at first. But the main thing you want to look at here is we've registered the component winbox, which I've added. So I had to add winbox. Yeah, that's quite important, I should have mentioned this. So I had to add this attribute winbox with just empty, otherwise I wouldn't have been able to select it. So in the winbox, when you're actually creating the winboxes, I had to do that. Maybe another way of doing it, but that was just the way I did it. Just so that it's got a reference to the individual, whichever winbox is getting collided with. So add event listener for collide. This is coming from A-Frames engine, and then the way I've done it is checked if E, which is the thing we're colliding with, detail body, and I did it just based on this, which I found online basically. So yeah, you can see there it says E detail body element, and then there's an ID on that element of camera, so I just added check for ID is camera, if it's camera, because you don't want it to just get destroyed if it basically obviously collides with anything, because if it collided with anything, it collided with the floor, it'd just destroy it itself, so it wouldn't work. And then what am I doing here? So we have box, query select array box, and then we have to basically find the so winbox remove is the entity which was touched, box, which is this, parent child remove, winbox remove, and then we just play a sound. This bit took me a while to work out actually, and then decrement score, which is just which probably doesn't even need to be here really. It doesn't need to be the same function, but it just basically reduces the score by 1. And then obviously in the loop for the game state, once that equals 0, this just, you get the win condition. So I think that's essentially everything. I have some CSS as well, but not really sure if it's worth going over, to be honest. I might do a tutorial for this, I think, in the future. I want another video. I'm not sure. So the CSS is pretty standard. I mean, it probably needs improving. Even I've just had to prototype it really fast. So yeah, I think I'll leave it at that. Hope that's been interesting at least. You can play the game. It's on itch.io. I'm going to make the URL public soon, I think, just so people can have a mess around on it. I hope that's been interesting in some way or form, and some of what I've said has made sense. Yeah, okay, bye.